The stars were still burning when the screaming stopped. Captain Elara Vey stood rigid on the bridge of the Resolute, her eyes fixed on the dying transmission. Smoke and fire filled the screen, houses collapsing, silhouettes running, the hollow thunder of bombardment echoing through the feed. Then the image froze on a child clutching a tattered Earth flag before static swallowed it all. Silence. The officers around her didn't breathe. The only sound was the hum of consoles and the faint crackle of dead comms. Timestamp, Elara said, voice controlled but strained. 42 minutes ago, Captain, replied Lieutenant Mara. Her hands trembled as she pushed the data across. The colony is gone. Elara forced herself to nod. Haven's Reach had held 50,000 civilians, families who had trusted the Concorde's assurances that humanity's frontier worlds would be safe. She pressed her palms behind her back until nails dug into skin. On the display, the attackers retreated in precise formation, Zorati warships, their crescent hulls glinting against the void. They left no occupation forces, no warning, just ruins. Commander Rourke broke the silence. Deliberate extermination. They didn't even bother to secure resources. Don't say it, Mara muttered. Not yet. Rourke looked to Elara. His jaw tightened. Orders, Captain? She held his gaze. Rourke was a soldier through and through, his instincts leaning toward immediate retaliation. But she had spent years as a diplomat before taking command. She had preached patience, cooperation, compromise. That part of her felt like a stranger now. Signal the Concorde Senate, she ordered. Attach the full recording. Request immediate military intervention. Rourke hesitated. You really think they'll act this time? They have to, she said. But doubt twisted in her gut. The reply came faster than expected, cold, bureaucratic. A Concorde envoy's voice filled the bridge, monotone and rehearsed. Captain Vey, the Concorde acknowledges your report. However, we cannot confirm aggression without further investigation. You are advised to stand down until an inquiry is complete. Do not escalate. Maintain order. Concorde out. The channel cut. Investigation? Mara's voice cracked. Tens of thousands dead, and they call for an inquiry? Rourke slammed a fist against the console. They won't lift a finger. They'll wait until the Zorati finish what they've started. Elara exhaled slowly. Anger would cloud her judgment, and she couldn't afford that. Plot a course to Bastion Colony. It's the next closest target. We'll intercept if they move on it. 6 hours later, they emerged from fold space near Bastion. The sight turned Elara's stomach. Debris fields stretched across the void, glittering shards of shattered habitats, twisted hulls of transport ships, clouds of frozen bodies drifting in silence. Bastion's defense grid was nothing but smoking fragments. Mara covered her mouth. Gods! Rourke whispered a curse under his breath. No distress signals, no survivors. Just wreckage. The Dominion hadn't left a single thing breathing. Scan for stragglers, Elara said, though she knew the answer. Wait. Mara leaned closer to her console. One contact. Zorati hull. Disabled, minimal power. Could be a trap. Bring us in, Elara ordered. The wrecked frigate loomed like a wounded predator, its armor punctured, engines dark. Boarding crews latched onto the hull, cutting their way inside. The corridors stank of scorched metal and alien ichor. Elara led the team herself. She needed answers. They found survivors, barely. A handful of Zorati lay chained in their own brig, prisoners abandoned when the ship fell. Among them, one officer still clung to life, his mandibles clicking in contempt as he met Elara's gaze. You are the human commander, he rasped. I am, she said evenly. Why are you attacking unarmed colonies? Why kill civilians? His mandibles spread in what passed for a sneer. Because mercy is waste. Your kind should never have left your cradle. You are vermin from poisoned worlds. The Dominion cleanses vermin. Rourke bristled, stepping forward, but Elara raised a hand. Her voice dropped to ice. This is genocide. The officer tilted his head, unashamed. No. This is inevitability. We feared you when you pretended at civility. Now we see the truth. Beneath your masks you are only beasts. And beasts must be culled. His words dug deep, but not as he intended. Something within Elara hardened. The galaxy had always whispered about humanity's ferocity, about the death worlds that forged them. For centuries, humans had bent themselves to rules, showing restraint, playing the role of allies. And still, it wasn't enough. She stepped closer, staring into the alien's unblinking eyes. If you think we were dangerous before, she whispered, you have no idea what's coming. Back aboard the Resolute, the crew gathered in the strategy chamber. The tension was palpable. Mara's voice shook. What do we do now? If the Concord won't act? They won't. Rourke cut in. They're too afraid of war. Too afraid of us even. Elara studied them, her officers, her people. Fear radiated from them, but also defiance. They were waiting for her to decide what humanity would become. She straightened. The Dominion believes extermination will break us. They're wrong. Every colony they burn only forges us harder. If the Concord won't fight beside us, we fight alone. We fight like the worlds that raised us taught us, ruthless, relentless, unyielding. Mara swallowed. That means war. It means survival, Elara replied. That night, alone in her quarters, she allowed the mask to slip. She stared at the frozen frame of Haven's Reach, the child with the flag, and felt the weight of every soul lost. Her hands trembled, but only for a moment. The fear faded, replaced by something sharper. Resolve. She activated her recorder, her voice steady. Log entry. Humanity can no longer afford restraint. The Dominion has chosen genocide. Very well. They will learn what it means to awaken predators. If they want to see monsters, then monsters we will become. The recording ended. Elara closed her eyes, the decision sealed. Tomorrow, humanity would change forever. The chamber smelled of steel and old dust. Humanity's leaders, military officers, governors, engineers, flickered in from scattered colonies, their images projected around the table in the Resolute's war room. Tired faces, hollow eyes, anger hidden under restraint. Elara stood at the center, evidence laid bare on the screen, Bastion's ruins, Haven's Reach burning, the Dominion officer's sneer frozen in mid-sentence. Silence hung, heavy as stone. Governor Ilias spoke first, his voice brittle. We cannot match their fleets. If we resist openly, humanity will be extinguished in months. An admiral cut in. We've survived worse odds. We built colonies on worlds others called uninhabitable. We endured storms that stripped cities bare. We can endure this. Endurance is not enough, Elara said, her tone sharp. Every eye turned. The Dominion doesn't want our surrender. They want extinction. Survival requires more than defense. It requires adaptation and offense. Her words drew a ripple of unease. What do you propose? Ilias asked. Elara raised a hand, and the display shifted to schematics, asteroid belts, warp routes, environmental hazards. We use what we are. Deathworlders. Our bodies, our worlds, our minds, all shaped by danger. The Dominion underestimates that. We turn the galaxy itself into a weapon. Ambushes. Traps. Guerrilla campaigns. Every colony a fortress. Every freighter a decoy. We fight like predators, not prey. Murmurs rose. Some voices skeptical, others emboldened. Predators don't win against fleets. An older general snapped. Predators win, Elara countered, by bleeding their prey until the prey collapses. The Dominion relies on supply lines, fuel convoys, slave labor. Cut that, and their fleets starve. Force them to hunt us where they cannot breathe. Her words struck deeper than logic. They awakened something primal. Finally, Rourke leaned forward. It won't be clean. No, Elara said. It will be war without limits. But they chose that. We finish it. One by one, heads nodded. reluctant at first, then firm. The council ended not with applause, but grim resolve. The days that followed reshaped humanity. Colonists welded cannons onto cargo haulers. Farmers strapped armor plates over tractors, turning them into makeshift tanks. Scientists raided forgotten vaults of banned Earth technology. Biological weapons, nanite swarms, chemical agents designed for worlds too hostile to colonize. Things humanity had locked away out of fear. Now fear itself had become a weapon. On the Resolute, crews trained relentlessly. Boarding drills, zero-G combat, improvisation exercises where every malfunction became a chance to adapt. Elara walked the decks, watching them sharpen. She saw in their faces not despair, but transformation. During one late shift, Rourke found her alone in the hangar, inspecting a row of jury-rigged strike craft. "You've changed," he said quietly. "So have we all." He leaned against a crate. 10 years ago, you would have argued for another treaty, another round of diplomacy." She met his gaze. 10 years ago, I believed peace was possible. Now I believe survival is mandatory. You're not afraid of what this will turn us into?" Elara let the question hang. She remembered the image of the child from Haven's Reach, remembered the alien sneer. Her voice was steady when she answered. "I'm afraid of what happens if we don't." The first strike came at the rim, where a Zorati supply convoy crawled along a brown dwarf's orbit. 3 heavy freighters, 2 escorts, confident in their superiority. Elara's fleet shadowed them, hidden within the dwarf's gravity well. Ships trembled under the strain, heat warnings flaring red, but the crews held steady. "Targets locked," Mara whispered. Elara gave a single nod. The trap sprung. Human vessels flared into existence, hurling rail slugs and torpedoes from impossible angles. Escort ships turned too slowly, engines clawing against gravity. One was gutted in seconds, the other spiraled into the dwarf's pull, vanishing in fire. Boarding parties latched onto freighters, cutting through hulls. Inside, humans fought like cornered wolves, close, brutal, efficient. The Zorati panicked in the crushing gravity, their movements sluggish. They weren't bred for this. Humanity was. Minutes later, the freighters burned, and the convoy was ash. Elara's voice carried over the calms. "Leave one survivor. Let him tell them what he saw." That survivor's screams echoed across Dominion channels. "They are feral! They are void-born devils!" News spread like fire through human space. For the first time since the slaughter began, people felt something other than despair. They felt vengeance. Colonies that had hidden in fear began sending volunteers. Every loss became fuel. But the victories came with a price. After the convoy raid, Elara studied casualty reports, names of crewmen lost to fire, air leaks, mangled hulls. She read each one, forcing herself to remember. Strategy demanded sacrifice, but the weight of each death pressed on her chest. That night, Rourke found her in the strategy room, alone. "You can't carry every one of them," he said. "They trusted me to lead them into hell," Elara replied. "I won't forget them." Rourke's jaw tightened. "The things we're doing, the tactics, the weapons, they'll call us monsters." "They already do," she said flatly. "At least now, we'll be monsters that survive." Weeks later, the Resolute led a strike on a Dominion outpost buried in the asteroid belt of Charon 6. It was supposed to be a listening post. Instead, it was something worse. As Marines stormed through corridors, they found cages. Not for animals, for humans. Emaciated colonists, dissected bodies, experiments left half alive. Notes etched in alien glyphs catalogued endurance, pain thresholds, neural reactions. Humanity wasn't just being exterminated, they were being studied. The sight hardened every soldier on the Resolute. Rage spread like wildfire. Elara stood over one of the cages, fists trembling. The survivor inside whispered, voice ragged. "Kill them, all of them." She turned to Rourke. "Record everything. Broadcast it to every channel in the Concord." The images lit up the galaxy, proof undeniable, horrors impossible to ignore. Concord's senators recoiled, their platitudes shattering. The galaxy finally saw the truth. When the fleet regrouped, the air on the Resolute felt different, charged, heavier. Men and women who had once spoken of survival now spoke of retribution. Elara gathered them in the hangar. Her voice carried above the roar of machinery. The Dominion wanted us weak. They wanted us broken. They thought killing our people would make us beg for mercy. She paused, letting her gaze sweep the crowd. But they've given us something else. They've given us purpose. We are not prey. We are not vermin. We are predators forged by Deathworlds. And now, the galaxy will remember it. The hangar erupted in a single, defiant roar. Rourke stood beside her, grim but unshaken. You've lit the fire, he murmured. Elara watched the faces before her, scarred, weary, unyielding. No, she said. The Dominion did. I'm just pointing it at them. That night, she stared into the void outside her quarters. The stars seemed sharper now, less distant, as if watching. The galaxy had always feared humanity's potential. Now it would see it unleashed. She whispered into the silence, not as a captain, not as a diplomat, but as a Deathworlder. We are the storm. And the storm has no mercy. The asteroid belt shimmered in fractured light, a graveyard of stone and metal stretching across millions of kilometers. To most species, it was chaos, too unstable, too unpredictable for battle. To humans, it was cover. It was home. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Elara Vey studied the tactical display. 3 Zorati fleets converged, their ships fanning out like blades. Hundreds of hulls, sleek and armored, bearing down on her position. Behind her, only mined asteroids, booby-trapped hulls, and a fleet barely half the enemy's size. Commander Rourke stood at her side. 3-1. They expect us to break. They expect wrong, Elara said, her voice steady. She raised her hand. Signal the fleet. Begin deployment. Across the belt, hidden weapons hummed to life. Railguns buried in asteroids, freighters packed with explosives, automated drones drifting like debris, all waiting. The first Zorati wave surged forward, confident. They fired barrages to scatter the rocks, tearing pathways through the field. For a heartbeat, the void was light and fury. Then the asteroids exploded. Human mines ripped open cruisers. Rail slugs, fired from hidden cannons, tore escorts in half. Entire flotillas vanished in white fire. Impact confirmed, Mara reported, her voice taut with exhilaration. On the comms, human crews shouted battle cries. Colonists turned gunners, engineers turned tacticians, farmers turned soldiers, every one of them fighting as though the graves of their families were at their backs. The Zorati adapted quickly, tightening formations, pushing through. More ships poured into the belt, firing indiscriminately, cutting swathes through traps. But the humans didn't scatter. They struck again and again, vanishing into rocks, reappearing where the enemy least expected. A panicked Zorati broadcast leaked across comms. They fight like the void itself is theirs. Rourke barked a laugh. Damn right. But the enemy pressed harder. Their flagship loomed at the center of the advance, a behemoth plated in black alloy, bristling with weapons. On its bridge sat High Strategos Vadris Kothel, orchestrating every move. Bring us in, Elara ordered. The Resolute dove through the belt, weaving between tumbling stone and fire. Every jolt of the hull, every groan of strained shields felt alive beneath her feet. Elara's fleet followed, drawing the enemy deeper into the maze. One human frigate rammed a Zorati destroyer head-on, detonating in a blaze that shook the field. Another vessel feigned retreat, luring pursuers straight into an ambush of hidden drones. Sacrifice after sacrifice, humanity carved a path. But the cost mounted. Names filled the casualty list faster than Elara could track. Mara whispered, We're losing too many. No, Elara cut her off. We're trading. At last, the Resolute reached striking range of the flagship. Its guns unleashed a storm, hammering human escorts into shards. Elara's voice rang clear. All units, cover our approach. We're ending this. Rourke stared at her. You're going aboard. She nodded once. Cathel dies, or this war never ends. He clenched his jaw, then saluted. Then let's deliver him to hell. The boarding craft shuddered under fire as it slammed into the flagship's hull. Marines poured through the breach, rifles blazing. The corridors echoed with alien roars and human gunfire. The fighting was savage, close, every corner a choke point. Elara led the push, plasma blade in hand. Her strikes were precise, brutal, cutting through armored foes with a predator's focus. At the flagship's command deck, the doors opened with a hiss. High Strategos Cathel stood waiting. His armor gleamed obsidian, his height towering, his eyes cold with disdain. So this is humanity's champion, he said, his voice a guttural growl. A fragile creature clinging to borrowed strength. Elara stepped forward. Fragile? You slaughtered our civilians because you feared us. You call us vermin, yet here I stand in your hall, burning your fleets. Cathel's mandibles spread in contempt. You are an infestation. Nothing more. Today I purge it myself. They clashed. His strikes were crushing, each blow shaking her arms to the bone. He fought with precision, centuries of training, but Elara's style was raw, adaptive. She turned broken consoles into cover, seized fallen weapons, used her environment the way humans always had, improvising, enduring. Cathel landed a blow that sent her sprawling, blade skittering across the deck. He loomed above, weapon raised. You die, and your kind follows. Elara's hand closed around a jagged fragment of alloy. She surged upward, driving it through a weak joint in his armor. Cathel roared, stumbling back. Elara snatched her blade, and with a final strike, cut him down. The Strategos collapsed, eyes dimming in disbelief. Elara stood over him, chest heaving. Remember this face, she whispered, when your empire burns. The death of Cathel spread across channels in seconds. Zorati formations faltered, command chains shattering. Human fleets struck with renewed fury, driving them back, turning retreat into rout. The flagship burned, a beacon of defiance against the void. On the Resolute's bridge, Mara's voice cracked with awe. They're retreating, we've won. Elara returned, her uniform scorched, her blade still streaked with alien blood. She looked out at the wreckage, thousands of dead, human and alien alike, drifting among shattered stone. Rourke approached, grim satisfaction on his face. The Dominion will fear us now. No, Elara said quietly. They'll hate us. The Concord will too. Fear and hate both. But they'll never forget us. Later, in the silence of her quarters, she recorded her final entry. Log, the Strategos is dead. The Dominion is broken, but not destroyed. Humanity stands alive, scarred, changed forever. The Concord offers alliance, yet I see the fear in their eyes. They thought us dangerous when we restrained ourselves. Now they know the truth. We are Deathworlders. And the galaxy will never forget it. She ended the recording and looked out into the stars. Not peaceful lights, not distant hopes. They were battlegrounds yet to come. Elara Vey, once a diplomat, once a believer in peace, now stood as the herald of a species reborn in fire. The storm had come, and it would not fade.